Luke, Sports Frenzy is your father. That's right, kids. May the 4th be with you.
Happy Star Wars Day to all you sci-fi nerds out there.
That's right. We're taping Sports Frenzy 2.0 on May the 4th. This will hit tomorrow morning, May the 5th. I'm the maestro, Kevin Crane.
I'm the conquistador, Dave Height.
Glad to have you aboard. And of course, segment 1 is our massive, expansive, stupendous NFL draft recap. Well, really, it was one of the most unexciting drafts we've seen or heard in recent memory because there wasn't a lot of star power. The quarterbacks didn't really make much of a splash. The Bears didn't have a lot of high picks.
No, and this was the fastest moving first round I can ever remember.
Kudos to Dan freaking I'm going to rip their kneecaps off Campbell for coming out and admitting what we watched the first round.
Yeah, it was done by 11:40.
You and I and the elder statesmen got together, as we do every year, our tradition. 3 of the 8 panelists here on Sports Frenzy, we get together every year to watch the first round. And we noted right off the bat that something was wrong because they weren't drawing the picks out nearly as much as they used to. And it's almost a mini rebellion, it seems like, against the NFL because the aforementioned Dan Campbell basically came out and said, yeah, the NFL's pissed at us because we knew we wanted Aiden Hutchinson immediately.
Yeah. And why draw it out?
After the Jaguars made their pick, the Lions knew who they wanted. They got their pick in 10 seconds.
Yeah, and the Jaguars didn't even take their full allotted time. Theirs was in pretty quick, too.
Which it should be. There shouldn't be any drama with the first pick.
Hell, the first 10, there should be no drama. It should be boom, boom, boom.
Well, they should all have contingency plans in place. And if this guy goes, then we go this guy. If this guy and that guy goes, we go this guy.
Yeah, the only reason it should take long is if there's a trade in the works. If there's no trade in the works, get the pick in and move on.
Yeah. So, yeah, kudos to Dan Campbell saying we're not going to play the dog and pony show. So, yeah, I would say.
Yeah, hardly anybody went even close to the full allotted time.
Especially in the top 10, because that's where there were no trades and everybody kind of fell pretty much as expected.
Yeah.
Then after that, things got a little slower because there were a lot of trades.
Still never hit the 10-minute mark.
Well, it ended, I would say.
It was over by about 11:40.
Which is about half an hour earlier than normal, at least.
Oh no! We've sat there till 12:30, 1:45 before.
Yeah. So too bad we can't keep that up. I'm sure the NFL will put some kind of, roadblocks in place for next year to make sure these teams drag it out so they can get all the commercials in.
Ugh. The fans would rather have it move boom, boom, boom like it did.
Yep.
It made it a lot more fun to watch.
Yep. I enjoyed it a lot more.
Hands down.
Couple of trades really made everything much more interesting. 2 big name receivers that have been talked about in terms of they want a new contract now because we've seen it with Tyreek Hill. $20 million is now the standard rate for a top-level NFL receiver. So the Titans say, nope, not going to do it. They trade A.J. Brown to the Eagles. The Ravens say, nope, not going to do it. We're going to trade Hollywood Marquise Brown to the Cardinals. Now, the Cardinals story gets a lot more interesting when you realize.
Yeah, this is.
A couple days later, the news breaks that DeAndre Hopkins is going to have to serve a 6-game suspension for PEDs.
Idiot.
Because I initially thought, why do they need Marquise Brown? They did lose Christian Kirk, but still, they had enough weapons. They've got Zach Ertz now at tight end. And of course, I assumed DeAndre Hopkins was going to be ready to go fully healthy.
Which is why he was taking the PEDs to get fully healthy.
And let me tell you, kids, he was a disappointment beyond belief on my fantasy team last year. I will not touch that dude this year. He would have to come to me on the last freaking pick of the last freaking round.
And then he's going to be sitting.
And then there were a ton of young receivers picked.
Yeah, you had the runs on receivers.
But again, none of them really stood out to me.
No.
Something that we talked about on draft night is that
there was, outside of a couple of players on offense or defensive lines, nobody was really flashy.
No, probably the most notable pick was the 20th pick in the first round when the lone first-round quarterback, Kenny Pickett, went to the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yep, hometown boy, hometown team, feel-good story.
Basically, what I'm hearing is since the Pitt Panthers and the Pittsburgh Steelers train at the same facility, instead of going to the door on the right, he's going to have to go 12 yards to the door on the left. But again, he was getting ripped for having small hands.
I doubt it really makes that much of a difference.
We'll get to this in a minute because we're going to look at the top 5 quarterbacks taken, which goes all the way back to the first pick of the 5th round. So, quarterbacks were not in high demand this year at all.
No, not exactly a strong class.
No, but we should, of course, look at our team, primary team, the Chicago Bears, and you and I have a vastly wide, gaping chasm in terms of a difference of opinion in what the Chicago Bears did. Now, I like the first 2 picks a lot.
Yep, we needed help in the secondary badly.
Yep.
And we addressed that with cornerback Kyler Gordon and safety Jaquan Brissler.
Yep, Gordon out of Washington.
Yep.
And Brisker out of Penn State.
These are guys who should be able to start.
On that train wreck of a team, yeah.
And there shouldn't be any issues. They should be able to step in and make an impact.
Yeah, I didn't have a problem with either one of those 2 picks. Then, of course, I am again going by what I heard from the experts because, again, this was our topic of discussion, was how are we supposed to know these players? How often do we get to see? I'm talking about our third round pick, Velus Jones Jr., the wide receiver out of Tennessee, who's supposedly the second coming of Cordarrelle Patterson, can do everything, return kicks, multitask, Swiss Army knife type of guy.
Yeah.
But again, I heard a lot of people say we overreached on him. But how am I supposed to know? How many Tennessee volunteer games am I watching a year in Northern Indiana?
Maybe 1 if we're lucky.
And they haven't been that good in a long time.
No, to warrant any national coverage.
Right. So I have no idea if this kid's going to end up being good or not. We need a receiver. Hopefully he pans out. Now, this is where the argument
comes into play.
Dave liked the fact that the new GM polls traded back a couple times, accumulating late round picks. So the Bears ended up taking 8 players from pick 25 in the 5th round on, back through the 6th and 7th. I had problems with this because I prefer 3 or 4 quality guys in the 4th and 5th, early 5th, versus the dung heap that we got. The 8 picks how many of them are going to make it? Seriously.
If we get half of them, we're in good shape.
We're not getting half. I'm sorry, we're not.
You get 4th, 5th, and on, you're a 50-50 shot.
There's still a better shot than a 7th or a 6th round pick. And the Bears have the money. Don't tell me it's about the money.
No, we've got the money, but we have so many damn needs that we needed depth and a chance to find somebody to fill in the gaps.
But again, there's going to be retread. There's going to be guys cut, guys on the waiver wire once, training camp kicks in that are going to be better quality players than these guys. And of course, now the one that I've been hearing is the real hot button pick was Dominique Robinson. He was outside linebacker.
Yeah.
For Miami of Ohio.
Ohio.
Again, he turns out to be maybe a, combine baby, one of those guys that impresses in the combine or in the Senior Bowl. But here's the thing. He wasn't even good enough to be in the starting lineup for Miami of Ohio his senior year. What does that tell you?
That's scary.
That worries me greatly. But again, they're saying he could be a hidden gem. That's what I say. The hidden gems. Give me the safer picks in the 4th and 5th round.
Yeah, but you didn't have a 4th rounder.
You could have traded up. You could have traded some of these picks. All right.
I don't know. It
Talking about
would have cost too much into going into next year.
Talking about the 5 quarterbacks that were taken, because that is the glamour position. So, we've mentioned Kenny Pickett, Small Hands Pickett.
Yep.
I would imagine most of these guys, if not all of them, I would imagine won't see the field unless there's an injury first year at all. The Steelers just paid Mitch Trubisky for 2 years. I imagine Trubisky is your starter. And I imagine Mason Rudolph probably
would have to be your backup, and you got Pickett sitting there to learn and observe,
right,
and take it all in.
There's
no reason to throw him out there when you've got Trubisky and Rudolph.
Yep. Next quarterback, a little bit of a shock. Number one, a little bit of a shock that it took until the 3rd round for the next quarterback to come off the board. But then it was not Malik Willis. It was Desmond Ridder from Cincinnati going to Atlanta. Now, I personally thought this was a pretty damn good pick.
That Ridder is a really solid quarterback.
Yep.
He's got a lot of experience.
Now, I'm not saying he's going to end up being a star. I'm not saying that.
No.
But if there's one quarterback, I think out of all these guys, I think Ridder could end up being the one that succeeds because, number one, Marcus Mariota, okay, he'll be the starter. But what does
For
that
about
say?
2 weeks until he gets injured.
What does that say? He probably, you're right, is the most likely to get injured out of the incumbents here that we're going to talk about. But I could see Desmond Ridder, again, not being great right off the bat, but being serviceable, being good. And then, of course, the highly touted Malik Willis from Liberty does end up going 22nd pick in the 3rd round to the Titans. That doesn't surprise me. But Ryan Tannehill did not take it well at all.
No, he took it worse than Aaron Rodgers did when they drafted Love. Went off on a rant, wants nothing to do with helping this kid out at all.
Well, yes and no. He did pull out the standard bitter aging quarterback line of I'm not here to be his mentor. He did say if the kid's around and picks things up for me, that's fine.
I'm so sick of that frickin' prima donna mentality that these starting quarterbacks have. They need to realize that they are not going to be there forever, and it's in their best interest and the team's best interest to help develop these guys the right way. Don't show them what an asshole you have to be a starting quarterback. A starting quarterback is supposed to be your team leader, rallying everybody, and getting everybody pulling in the same direction, not being an asshole.
I tend to agree with you on that. You guys are, these quarterbacks, speaking to Ryan Tannehill, you guys are getting paid tens of millions of dollars. Would it hurt you? Would it really hurt you to be a quote-unquote team player and realize that your backup, fresh out of college, you could actually try to help him.
Because
he's going to steal my job.
No.
Well, if he's going to steal your job, then you know what?
You suck.
And last time I checked, you threw 3 crucial picks in the playoffs last year, so maybe that's why they drafted him. If you hadn't done that, Ryan, maybe they wouldn't have drafted Malik Willis.
And here's a thought. If for some reason you get hurt for a couple of weeks, you want your backup to be good enough to keep the team in contention if you're a playoff team. Otherwise, you're screwed, and when you come back, you're done anyway.
Who's the legendary story outside of Tom Brady, of course, taking over for Drew Bledsoe? Is it Wally Pipp? Was it Lou Gehrig taking over for Wally Pipp?
Over for Wally.
Everybody thinks they're going to get Wally Pipped.
It does not happen that often.
No, and if you're good enough, it won't happen. Now, I love the eccentricity of Bill Belichick. I do. He will go his own way. He will do what he wants, and he doesn't give one rat's ass what you think about him. And
Belichick don't care. He like the honey badger.
Yeah, I should mention the other 2 quarterbacks. Matt Corral goes to Carolina with the 30th pick in round 3. He's injured. We'll see how long it takes. He might have the clearest path with Sam Darnold ahead of him. Ugh. And then Sam Howell from North Carolina. Dave loves North Carolina quarterbacks, of course.
Mitch the bitch Trubisky.
Pretty good value pick for the Washington Commanders. First pick in the 5th round. He's another one that could have a quicker path to playing given how bad Carson Wentz has been.
Oh, my God. Yeah, Wentz is just abysmal.
But anyway, sorry. I wanted to finish up that thought. Going to Belichick. New England's first-round pick, University of Tennessee Chattanooga guard Cole Strange, who most people had potentially being available in the late 3rd or the early 4th round. Again, Belichick's going to do what Belichick's going to do. But the reaction from Sean McVay, of course, Rams have traded how many of their picks away?
Yeah.
So they're basically just observing for the most part, having a couple late round picks, kind of like the Bears. It's amazing how the Rams are defending champions and the Bears suck, yet they both were in the same position where we just got a couple late round picks.
Yes, it leads back to bad trades early on, giving up too much from guys who you no longer have.
But yeah, Sean McVay basically mocked, and they've got it on video, Sean McVay mocking this pick, saying, "Oh, what were we thinking? We thought this guy might be available close to 100, the 100th overall pick." It's Belichick. He's going to do what he wants. It's worked for him so far.
Yep. He's obviously sees something that he liked in the character.
Yep. Now, one interesting free agent signing that happened after the draft, and I'm surprised he hung out there as long as he did. The Saints signed the Honey Badger.
Yep.
Tyrann Mathieu got a 3-year, $33 million deal. I'm really shocked he was sitting out there
as long as he was.
Yeah.
I know. Go figure.
Of course, we mentioned the Bears finally cut ties with Nick Foles after that stellar 10-year career. I mean, shitty 2-year run.
God. Again.
Somehow we saved $8 million on the cap. Number one, my question is, we're not going to spend it. It's too late. So what the hell does it matter that we saved $8 million on the salary cap? Because it's not going anywhere. It's going to sit there. Cheap-ass Bears. Sorry. I have a problem with this.
We need a new ownership.
Now, I'm sure it had something to do with when, probably post-draft, they cut him, get a better savings than pre-draft.
Yeah.
They write all that crap into these contracts, but
it's still, you need, I don't know, a degree in advanced statistical physics, whatever, to figure out how the NFL cap actually works.
Yeah, I agree.
It's so convoluted.
And I'm sure there's arrogant people out there right now go, oh, you guys don't know Jack. I can figure it out for you. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, I don't have all the time in the world to break it down. I actually have a life outside of doing this.
And yes, there's limits to how long. It's not like you can do like MLB does with Max Scherzer or Bobby Bonilla, infamously, where you can stretch the money out forever. There are limits. We talked about Tom Brady last week, where he saved the Buccaneers millions and millions of dollars. But I'm sure, again, they pushed some of that back. It was deferred.
Yep. You got to watch the deferrals because it's going to come back to get you at some point.
And I think that's going to be the Rams' problem. I think the Rams are going to have to try to defend that title this year because it's going to get nasty after this year, I think.
Yeah.
You're right. Saints had a big – that's, I think, why Sean Payton left, is he looked –
and knew they weren't going to be able to do anything.
Right. And still shocks me they were able to afford Honey Badger. The NFL has come out and said there is no evidence of the Cleveland Browns tanking.
That they will admit to. They're trying to make this stuff go away, kids. Do not believe it. I'm still playing conspiracy theorist here.
Yeah. When we get to baseball in our next segment, we're going to talk about law and order. And we're going to talk about how, and we've touched on this in the past, but I really want to get into this next segment because we're going to talk about Trevor Bauer, bring in Deshaun Watson, and how the hell these leagues seem to think
that they're above the law.
They have a more powerful gavel, a more powerful scales of justice than the goddamn actual legal system. And I'm not trying to defend scumbags. That is not what I'm trying to do. But we'll get to it. Just keep it in mind. Good for Georgia. The Georgia Bulldogs, of course, set a record for the most defensive players drafted in the first round and the most players drafted overall with 15.
That was a solid damn team that they had.
Of course, national champions, yeah.
Yep.
And you knew it was the defense.
Yeah.
So we'll see where that leads them down the road.
Yep.
And I want to give kudos. I don't know if you watched any of day 2. Of course,
no, I was not able to watch for the weekend. I was away at a conference.
Remember Ed Marinaro from Hill Street Blues?
Yes.
Former Vikings running back?
Yeah.
I'm not usually a big fan of people who come up for awards or shows like the draft and, you know, they're given the spotlight and they're supposed to be humble and they're supposed to do their little pithy joke,
do the
announce the pick
for the team,
and then move on and let in this case, the young kids come in for their moment of glory. But Ed Marinaro did not want to leave the stage. Ed Marinaro was up there forever, and I loved it because, number one, the guy is an actor, so he kind of knows how to play the crowd. He was having fun. He was ripping on the Packers. Never gonna give anybody a hard time for ripping on the Packers.
Oh no, that warrants his 5 minutes of additional fame.
But the best part was he's sitting there just having fun, joking around. Female producer has to come out on stage
and pull him away
with her clipboard and her headphones, and she got, I think she had a pen in her hand, and she's tapping at the pick on the podium, looking at him, basically saying, "Make the pick, Ed! Make the pick! This isn't your stand-up show, Shecky."
Let him have some fun. The NFL wanted things drawn out. That was a way to do it.
Well, what does the acronym sometimes stand for with the NFL?
No Fun League.
Yep.
On display yet again.
Yep. And I'm sure there were people that didn't like Marinaro's little stunt, but I loved it. I thought it was great.
That was awesome. Should we wrap the draft with Mr. Irrelevant? Pick number 262, Brock Purdy, quarterback out of Iowa State, going to the Niners.
Yeah, rarely is Mr. Irrelevant a quarterback.
Yeah, usually it's a lineman.
Yeah. So very interesting. The 49ers, that whole situation is bizarre. We've talked about
What are they going to do?
Baker Mayfield and what's going on with him in Cleveland. Yeah, Jimmy
What's going on with
Garoppolo is
Garoppolo?
still. Do they have no faith now in Trey Lance? I'm not saying picking Mr. Irrelevant as a quarterback is any kind of challenge to either one of those two, but
No, but you got to wonder, what the hell are they thinking out there?
yeah.
So,
Well, we hope you enjoyed our draft recap. I know we didn't get into a lot of detail on some of the higher up picks.
yeah.
But again, I'm not sure how many of these guys are really going to end up being household names in the long run. The Jets did well with 2 picks in the top 10. The Giants did well.
They parlayed those into what they needed.
Giants as well with 2 picks in the top 10. So people don't like the Jacksonville pick. People seem to love the Lions draft.
We'll see how that all rolls out. All right. I have to give kudos to Shad Khan for finally coming out and ripping into Urban Meyer, for calling him pretty much the liar that he was and is, and how frickin' Fox can even consider bringing him back to do their show before and after. This guy is toxic and has no business being anywhere associated with another job in football ever again.
I got to agree with you on that. I mean, he's burned his bridges in so many ways. And I'm not trying to diminish anybody who has health issues. Of course, mental health is a big thing now. But how many times has Urban Meyer bailed on a job claiming health issues, and then he jumps right back in a year or two later? Oh, I'm okay now.
Yeah. Gee, when things are starting to go against you, you bail.
Yeah.
And here you were just a complete asshat with the Jaguars, lied about having studied the team and knowing what you wanted to do, and then not having a clue, throwing coaches and players under the bus, not taking personal responsibility for your decisions as the coach. Abysmal.
One of the worst big-time college to pro hirings I can ever remember. And it might be the worst because it showed him to be a bad human being. The other one I can think of, and it wasn't because he was necessarily a bad human being, he was just in over his head. Remember Jerry Tarkanian? Went from UNLV to the Spurs.
To the NBA, and he was just out of his element completely.
Yeah, not necessarily because he was doing the bullshit that Urban Meyer was doing, but that's the only comparison I can make in terms of bringing somebody in, taking that big swing from college to the pros, and it's not working for the most part. I mean, even look at somebody who's been moderately successful going from college to the pros with Billy Donovan, who did okay with OKC, and now he's doing okay with the Bulls, but he's never really been a transcendent coaching talent.
Yeah. Well, it's also tough to make the jump from high school to college. You had back in the 80s, Jerry Faust, the greatest high school head coach ever, flopped miserably at Notre Dame.
Yep.
So some guys can't make it.
Sometimes maybe the guys like Lovie Smith on his third job, the retreads, maybe that's the better, safer pick. Just saying.
There you go.
All right, kids, that's one segment in the books. Next up, baseball. And we promised you we're going to talk about the justice system in some of these major sports leagues. We're going to talk about the start of the NBA playoffs as well. So stay tuned. The Conquistador and I will be right back.
Stay tuned for Vader Justice.
Yes. Listen, you will, to Sports Frenzy 2.0, you must. Much to learn from the maestro and conquistador there is for entertainment every Saturday. On Spotify, Anchor, Google, Apple, and everywhere are they found.
The force is strong with these two. Welcome to Sports Frenzy 2.0. Yeah, I know, it sucks as a Darth Vader impersonation. But happy Star Wars Day, kids. May the 4th be with you as we tape here. May 4th, this will hit the 5th. I'm the Conquistador, Dave Height.
And I'm the maestro, Kevin Crane. Hey, I wasn't sure if we were doing Batman Tribute Day or what. Sounded like Bane.
Yeah.
No, just kidding.
Yeah, wasn't quite feeling it. It just didn't come together the way I had hoped.
Dave is the master impressionist by far of the two of us. You can hear a lot of his work on our promos.
Most of the time they can work out. This one failed abysmally.
No, it didn't. It was fine. It was fine.
Baseball time.
And we are watching right now as we're taping the night of the 4th. We're watching the Cubs and the White Sox duke it out, our two teams.
Yep, ball is flying out of Wrigley tonight. We through 2.5 innings, and we've already got 4 home runs.
Yep, 3-2 the Cubs right now. Because we're selfish, we'll keep you updated throughout this entire episode as to what's going on.
Yep. White Sox coming into tonight sitting at 10-13, 4.5 behind the Twins. Damn them for getting swept. Ugh.
Well, they had that long losing streak we talked about last week that did not help at all. But I still think in the end they're going to end up winning the Central once they get healthy, once everything gets straightened out.
We'll see. We got to start playing well because the Twins' schedule over the next several weeks is against the likes of the A's, the Orioles, the Royals, the bottom feeders, and they can really do some damage while the Sox are going up against the Rays, the Dodgers, and we've got a tough road ahead. This unfortunately,
stay the course, young Luke. You'll get through this. Get through this, you will. Get through this, you will.
Only hope.
The Cubs, of course, just suck goats. Or what, Tatooine sweat hog balls. I don't know what one of those bizarre creatures that they have on the desert planet.
Yeah.
9-14. I told you guys last week the charade that was the Cubs being the number 1 offensive team in terms of batting average as of last Wednesday morning. Now, a week later, they've plummeted. They've scored 6 runs in their last 5 games, not including tonight, of course. This team is a joke. And just like the Bears, we talked about them in the first segment. It's amazing. I don't think the White Sox apply here. You can comment on the Blackhawks, but between the Cubs and the Bears, these two mismanaged, cheap-ass teams are all they're doing is taking advantage of their fans. The Cubs have always done that. The Cubs just admit, we just want people to come sit in the bleachers and drink a shit ton of beer.
Yeah. No,
and the Bears aren't getting any better right now than the Cubs.
Yeah. The Blackhawks spent too much money on the guys who got them the cups. They got into cap problems because Stan Bowman didn't know what the hell he was doing. And now we're paying the price for being in cap hell, pushing it too far. The opposite issue.
Well, yeah, and we'll touch on the NHL playoffs possibly maybe later on. I don't know. They're just starting
but not
off.
Really.
Yeah, they're just starting out. So going back to the Cubs, one of our former managers, congratulations to Dusty Baker.
Yep. 2,000th win as a manager. First black manager to hit that mark. 12th manager overall. Congratulations.
And Dusty is like Marty Schottenheimer to me.
He has a great regular season, but usually flops in the playoffs.
Yeah. But Dusty will get you to that point.
Yeah.
He'll get you to a certain point, a certain level of success. And you can't argue with that. You just can't.
No.
I always loved Marty Schottenheimer. Dusty, I've tolerated him when he was with the Cubs, at least. But he's a good manager. He's a really good manager. And he's still doing great things with Houston. That's why they keep, it seems like they re-up him every year and say, come back for one more, Dusty. Come back until the bottom falls out. Eventually it will.
Yeah.
And then,
but for the most part, the players like him.
Yeah. As long as he doesn't bring his kid on the field. Of course, now he's probably a grown-ass man.
Yeah.
But I remember that. Oh, that was an embarrassment.
Anytime he screwed up, he would have his kid sit on his lap so he wouldn't be asked the difficult questions.
Absolutely.
Ugh.
Unfortunately, most of the positive baseball news for this week is coming out of New York. The Yankees are on an 11-game winning streak coming into today.
Yep.
And the Mets had a 5-pitcher no-hitter against the Phillies back on the 29th of April.
Yeah.
This sucks. Nothing sucks more in baseball than when the New York teams are good, because the fans are arrogant.
They are.
The radio people are arrogant. Everybody in that city is arrogant about how great their teams are.
The nice positive story coming out of New York, though, was the Blue Jays-Yankees game. Aaron Judge hits a home run into the second deck. Blue Jays fan catches the ball, looks like he's going to throw it back, but then turns around and hands it to a young fan, a young Yankees fan who's wearing a Judge t-shirt. The kid absolutely loses it, starts crying, and gives this guy the biggest damn hug. Made this kid's decade.
Yep.
I mean, that's what you can be, rivals, but that's the type of thing that makes baseball truly special.
Yep,
that fans come together.
Almost makes you forget about the Yankees pelting the Cleveland players with rocks and garbage last week.
But it was a Blue Jays fan doing something nice. Yeah.
I know.
But that's the type of thing you love to see.
And now, after a rough start, Mr. Judge is looking like he was pretty smart to bet on himself, because now
he's starting to turn it up a little bit.
Now that Rizzo has cooled off, Judge has jumped in, taken up the slack.
Yeah, maybe they can be a good 1-2 punch after all. But he still has to stay healthy for the season.
Yeah, and I still don't know if I believe in the Yankees as much as everybody else, especially those people inside of, what is it, Triborough area?
Yeah.
I don't think they have enough pitching outside of Garrett Cole. Are you really going to depend on Nestor Cortez and Jordan Montgomery as your 2 and 3?
Yeah, well, you'd be hard
Jamison Tyone.
They're doing well right now. The offense is carrying them through. We all know that that's not going to last.
Yep.
With the ebb and flow of the game.
Yep. The Rays had a rough start. They're starting to come on. So, and of course, that team has always been the Yankees' bugaboo here recently.
Yep. Staying in New York, the Mets running up against having to cut the roster down. Robinson Cano has been designated for assignment, released. They have to eat $37 million, which he's owed over the rest of this year and next year.
And this is what happens when you get a brand new owner who's not afraid to spend the money or take the hits like that.
Yeah, and let's face it, Cano has been abysmal the last several years.
Yep. And it's just ridiculous that the trade that brought him to the Mets was facilitated by his agent, then turned into the GM, Brody Van Wagenen, who's now again his agent.
Yeah. Yeah, that was just bad overall. So, yeah, at least it's only 2 years and you got an owner with deep pockets who's willing to pay it, because you're not going to have Bobby Bonilla Day 2.0. You're not going to have Robinson Cano Day.
Right.
I think they've learned their lesson there.
Yep. Just pull the Band-Aid right off. Get it over with. Get it done with.
Yep.
Don't stretch the misery out.
Then we've also had history made out in LA with the Dodgers. Clayton Kershaw passes Don Sutton on the Dodgers all-time strikeout list, getting number 2,697.
If it's and Clayton Kershaw, I think, will end up being in the Hall of Fame, despite the fact that he is kind of a China doll at times.
Yep.
Doesn't have the greatest postseason record of all times. But the thing I always think of when I think of Clayton Kershaw and how he's looked at as the new great Dodgers ace, at least of the last 20 years. If Sandy Koufax and Don Drysdale had longer careers, this wouldn't even be an issue because he would still be way behind them.
He would, because those two careers were shortened by arm issues.
Yep.
Yeah.
Are we saying that maybe these teams know what they're doing by going 4 1/3 with the starters?
No.
All I do is go look back at the Mets and I look at Max Scherzer, and that dude is still dealing his freaky 2 different colored eyes every time I see a picture of him.
Dude,
he looks like something out of a horror movie. But he
kind of
is
like the original Mad Max.
But he is my favorite pitcher right now. He is a bulldog. He is what a pitcher should be. He doesn't bitch. He doesn't moan. He doesn't complain. He goes out and he deals, and he will pitch 7, 8 innings.
Yep, that he does. So Verlander's come back
nicely, yes.
Nicely off of his Tommy John surgery.
Yes.
Is another guy who will take the ball and go as long as he possibly can.
And I think we've discussed this before, but I think those 2 guys, Verlander and Max Scherzer, are the last. Maybe if you want to throw Kershaw in there, if he gets through this year well, maybe another year. Those 3 are pretty much, to me, what I see in the horizon as the last great pitchers. And they're not even comparable to some of the ones from 20 or 30 years ago.
Oh, no.
But they're still, of what we're dealing with right now, the best that we've got, because I'm scared to death to think what's going to be considered an ace of a staff in 10 or 15 years when those guys are gone.
I know.
It's a scary thought. We talked about how we're going to have to drop 300 down to 200 in terms of wins. Maybe
200 is it right now. What are we going to look
150,
at in the future?
175. Now, because of the fact that the hitters are so awful, 3,000 strikeouts might stay the benchmark.
That could, because everybody's swinging for the fences right now.
But no way are wins. 300 is a dinosaur. 300 wins. You'll never see it again.
No.
Never. Like you said, 200 maybe. We might have to readjust that.
Yeah.
All right, time for Dave and I to tackle the big, bad topic of the week.
Oh,
Trevor Bauer getting a 2-year suspension from Major League Baseball after they've pretty much been dicking him around, for no pun intended, for the last 6 to 8 months.
When I first heard this, I'm like, oh, okay, it's going to be 2 years, including what they've already screwed him. No, it's on top of what they've already screwed him. He's been gone, what, a year now, as it is?
Pretty close. Probably not quite a year, but pretty close.
So he's going to be gone almost 3 freaking years for this.
The question we have to pose here on Sports Frenzy, our debate here in this second segment, has got to be, we look at Deshaun Watson in the NFL, we look at the past, we look at Ray Rice, players like that. Why do these sports leagues seem to think, and you can translate this to regular life.
Yeah.
If somebody gets arrested, but they are never found guilty, never criminally charged, any or all of the above, Who says a company or a business has the right to terminate the employment of that person just because they did their own quote unquote internal investigation? So, outside of maybe Pinkerton, what company, what sports league thinks they have the investigators, the protocols in place, the legal system in place to judge higher than the American legal system? This drives me insane.
Me too. It's they could not find enough to bring criminal charges against Bauer. There was enough there. What this woman did, she's on record telling friends that she was out to get him and she was going to do whatever it took. Yeah, what he did, not good. Is he a good human being? Probably not. There's enough of them out there that are despicable. But you cannot go that long with this if he was not criminally charged.
And he is going
When
back
is being
at
a
her.
dirtbag a crime?
Listen to all the legendary stories of Babe Ruth and what a scumbag he was, yet he is considered, if not the greatest, one of the greatest baseball players of all time.
He's still the poster child for the MLB.
I just don't understand how a company or a business, they have their own quote unquote legal system that overrides the American legal system. I thought it was innocent until proven guilty. These guys are, even Deshaun Watson, and that's why I think the Browns took this gamble trading for him, because we're starting to see some cracks in the foundation. Yeah. Again, nobody is condoning Deshaun Watson. Nobody's saying, like Dave said, he's a nice guy. But
no, he's a scumbag for what he did, but there's nothing criminal there.
The president of our goddamn United States, and you can go back to almost every single goddamn one of them over the last 30 years, have not been nice guys.
No, they haven't.
They screwed people over legally, illegally. They are in the most powerful position in the country, and they're above the law. Yet somehow...
Hell, you look at Congress and the Senate, those people are committing crimes left and right, getting away with it.
I just have a problem, and this has never happened to Dave Rye, but God forbid, if I was ever in a situation where I got in trouble with the law and my workplace heard about it and said, well, we're going to have to terminate you. Wait. I have to have my day in court first. I have to prove my... No, we don't care about that. We just care about how it looks for us. But if I steadfastly claim I didn't do it and I haven't been to court yet and haven't had a chance to defend myself, how the hell can I lose my livelihood? How can I lose my job? What can Trevor Power... Now, he's made a shit ton of money. So if he's been at all reasonable with his finances, he'll be fine.
Yeah. But still, if he was found guilty, if he was charged, I can see adding this. He has already been on administrative leave, not being able to play. That is enough.
You guys drop us a line. You get on our Facebook page. You let us know what you think, because this is, to me, a troubling trend in our sports. Selective persecution, selective prosecution, whatever you want to call it, of certain athletes. And it's not obviously color of the skin. We've got Trevor Bauer is a white guy. Deshaun Watson is African American. We're not doing this along racial boundaries. We're just talking in general. How the hell does a business or a sports association, a sports league, get to say they're the long arm of the law above the actual long arm of the law?
Now you go back to the NFL. We're still waiting to see what's going to happen with, what was it, Tyreek Hill?
Yeah.
On the assault charges?
Yeah.
You got that looming. I mean, then what are we going to do with Washington and the Commanders with their owner, Dan Snyder?
Who seem to be a topic each and every week here.
But the guy is a scumball. And yet they continue to let him just go the course, remain an owner, protecting their own. Jerry Jones, same damn thing.
Yep. All right, we got to move on. We'll revisit this again, of course. We'll see if Trevor Bauer gets any kind of recourse, takes any kind of legal action against MLB. And, of course, we're still waiting on an outcome from Deshaun Watson.
I can see that looming over another year where it's going to financially hurt him and the Browns.
Where the NFL says, okay, you tried to be smart with that $1 million salary for the first year.
Yep.
Well, guess what? We'll wait till the second year, and then we'll bring the hammer down.
Everybody over with this fully guaranteed contract. NFL don't play that.
Yep. All right, moving on to the NBA. The playoffs have begun in the NBA. Interesting so far. We're just a couple games in. On the West side, Golden State and Memphis are...
That's getting ugly.
One game apiece. Yeah, we're seeing a lot of cheap shots. Draymond Green, of course, got to be in the middle of it. He got an elbow to the face last night in Game 2. Gary Payton II broke his elbow when he tried to brace himself.
After getting hit in the head on a dunk, which that was a bad foul. Yes. That was awful. Yeah. That was a cheap shot.
Steve Kerr, Mr. Pacifist, Mr. Namby-Pamby Snowflake, actually was even mad about it. So, if he's mad, then it was a really bad foul.
Yeah. I mean, there was no way that this shot was going to be contested. But yet Peyton gets hammered in the head, knocked to the floor, and the way he came down, his arm was just there, and it fractured his elbow.
And you don't even have to watch the video of it. You listen to the audio, you can hear him howl in pain.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll see what happens. This did have all the makings of a great series between Golden State and Memphis. So far, it has not disappointed.
They just need to clean up the gameplay.
Right. Now it's heading back to the Bay Area. The Suns, again, they're getting over their injuries. They had some guys dinged up. They've kind of snuck their way through here so far. Now they've got everybody back. They are out to a 1-0 lead against Dallas. I don't think this particular series goes much more than 5.
No, 5 at the most.
Then, of course, the Bucks playing the Celtics. And you can say what you want about LeBron James and talk about, I'll tell you what, Giannis Antetokounmpo is the man. He was MVP last year. He took the Bucks on his shoulders in Game 1 in Boston, got that crucial road win, just like Golden State did in Memphis in Game 1. So now that one is 1-1 as the Celtics came back and won the second game. They had to have the second game.
Yeah. The Bucks are going to be tough to beat. And let's face it, Grayson Allen is going to come into at some point.
God, I hate him. I hate him.
Me too. He is going to cause an injury at some point here.
He's going to cheap shot somebody.
Yep, because that's what he does. He doesn't know any other way to play.
Yeah. The virtuous Mike Krzyzewski, of course, a product of the Duke factory. The last 10 years, we've said it. Don't be fooled. They got just as down and dirty and just as corrupt in who they recruited as anybody else. And Grayson Allen is Exhibit A.
Yep, he's the poster child for K letting people get away with anything and everything for a win.
Then the only other series we've got in the East, we've got the 8 teams left, of course, the Miami Heat up on Philadelphia 1-0. Of course, it does not help that Joel Embiid is out for the first 2 games, at least for the Sixers, with a concussion and I believe an orbital fracture.
Yeah.
So that'll give Doc Rivers yet another excuse when he chokes. But I have to admit, coach that I really didn't have a ton of respect for, even though he's got a ring, got a couple, is Eric Spoelstra. He has proven to me that Riley knew what he was talking about when he brought him in as his successor.
Yep, Spoelstra can actually coach.
Yep.
And manage a game.
Now, that being said, I think with as little NBA knowledge as I have, I will say from what I've seen so far of the playoffs, I will take the winner of the Bucks-Celtics series to go to the finals. I like Miami, but I don't know, even with home court advantage, if they can beat Giannis or they can beat all that great young talent that the Celtics drafted. This is the way you need to do it, kids. Draft the players, keep the players like the Celtics have.
Yeah, that does not happen in this
I
almost
anymore. Said groom the players, but I know
you can't. No.
That'd be like the second time in 3 weeks I've done that.
No,
God, I can't believe that word has now become so tainted.
Personal grooming is one thing. Grooming an individual is something else entirely.
And I do want to point this out, by the way, just to emphasize why we don't focus on the NBA, especially during the regular season and even in the first round of the playoffs, because guess what? As we've talked about these 4 series, did you notice all top 8 seeds, 4 in the East, 4 in the West, advance to the first round? And it happens, 95% of the time. Because it doesn't matter. The regular season doesn't matter. The first round doesn't matter. It's all a money grab. And I'll tell you what, you pathetic people who go to these first round games, I don't care if it's your team or not, you should be ashamed of wasting that money. Give that money to your kids. Give that money to charity because you're wasting it. Your team is either going to win easily or going to lose based on where their seed is. I can't stand the absolute waste of time the first round of the NBA playoffs are, let alone the regular season. Can't stand it.
Yep, too many teams make it.
Any discussion of the NHL playoffs before we wrap up segment 2?
There's nothing to even discuss at this point.
Well, there's no Blackhawks.
So let's wait a week and see where things stand. They just got started this week.
Now, there was an epic game last night. First game of the series between the Penguins and the Rangers. Triple overtime.
God, you got to love triple overtime games in the playoffs.
No shootouts.
Those are the
shootouts.
Best.
Yep.
God, those are so much fun.
Like Dave said, though, we will get back into the NHL when, just like with the NBA, we winnow away some of the chaff.
Yep.
Some of the teams that barely got in, barely deserve to be there. Once we get to the big boys in the next round, we'll start talking about it. So that's it for segment 2. Coming up next, NASCAR, our look back at Dover, the rain-delayed Dover race, and looking forward to the Lady in Black.
Yep, Darlington.
Lots to talk about in NASCAR. We do have a few dumbasses for you. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Hey kids, ready for a blast of dairy goodness? Pick up Sports Frenzy 2.0 milk at your local grocery store. Remember, when you drink Sports Frenzy 2.0 milk, you're not only enjoying a healthy treat, you're helping to locate missing sports heroes of the past and present. Our cartons and jugs feature pictures of Peng Shuai, Ryan Leaf, and Sammy Sosa as we do our part to find the lost icons of the last 30 years. And don't forget our special weekend edition chocolate milk containers, available on Spotify, Google, Radio Public, Pocket Casts, and wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts, because they featured celebrities like Lindsay Lohan, Helen Hunt, and Jean-Claude Van Damme. Pick up a gallon today.
Yes. Final segment you have reached. Sports Frenzy 2.0. Listen, you will.
Welcome. Just like on 420, we just can't can't avoid doing the cheesy, cheap jokes, this time at the expense of May the 4th, Star Wars Day. And of course, this weekend, which usually follows, is Free Comic Book Day.
Woohoo!
So get out to your local comic book store, scoop up some goodies
Yep.
for your kids and for yourself.
Much happier with that impression than the Darth Vader debacle from the previous.
You mean Bane?
Yeah.
No. Of course,
God.
Dave is wearing his Darth Vader Who's Your Daddy shirt. I did not pull mine out, faux pas on my part.
Gotta represent. So, third segment of Sports Frenzy 2.0. I'm the Conquistador, Dave Height.
And I'm the maestro, Kevin Crane. This will hit tomorrow morning, the 5th of May. Time to go to NASCAR. Racing. Dover had a little bit of weather issues on Sunday, so the race was pushed after just about 70 laps roughly on Sunday.
Yeah.
Pushed it to Monday. Chase Elliott ends up winning his first race of the year. That sounds a little shocking, considering he's the points leader. But Chase does win his first race, giving Hendricks already, through 11 races, a clean sweep. All 4 of their drivers have now won.
At this point, all locked in.
Yep. Chris Buescher had the pole. It was an interesting race.
I did not get to see it because, of course, I had to go into work on Monday, unfortunately.
But the one issue that you are aware of that we need to discuss, especially if you've been out there, kids, and you've seen the video of Denny Hamlin racing his own tire off of pit road, is that the new single hub tire is just, there's something wrong there.
There's something wrong with the lugs. Not only did Hamlin have it, but so did Allmendinger. On the Cup, there have been 8 issues with this in the Cup Series alone. That doesn't count the Xfinity Series. They have had their issues as well with this. You don't see these problems in Formula One or IndyCar, where they've had the single lug hubs forever. NASCAR's got to figure this out. And at this point, it's a design flaw. You cannot fully blame the teams for it.
Yeah, now I did watch most of the race Saturday or Sunday and Monday. And they did mention that most of the teams were looking at Dover as the last track that they didn't really have a quote-unquote template for. They had not run a track like Dover through the first 10 races. So now they're saying, starting with Darlington, they can at least look back at data from a race earlier in the year that will sync up and compare to all the tracks going forward. So maybe, I don't know about the tire situation, but maybe in terms of tire wear, camber, all those type of things.
You know, Darlington is still a beast of its own because the 2 ends of the track do not mesh. It's egg-shaped. It's the most abrasive track surface that they run on. I still don't think that what data they've collected so far is going to play that big of a role in this race.
We'll get to our picks for the Goodyear 400 at Darlington in just a moment, but we've got some other NASCAR news to discuss. Now, first off, we've talked about the whole thing with Fox this year, which I love, the rotating commentators in the booth with Mike Joy and Clint Boyer. I think it's working great. I love it.
It's fun. You get a different perspective all the time. It's enjoyable.
And now this week, they're going for the triumvirate. They're bringing in the 3 big boys, former champions, Richard Petty, Bobby Labonte, and Bill Elliott.
This could be interesting.
Now, I don't know. I did not hear if they're going to do one for every segment. All 3 of them are going to be in the booth all the time. That seems a little crowded.
That
5
would be
guys.
a little much. That would be a bit much.
So I imagine they're going to rotate Petty, Labonte, and Elliott out every stage. But But that'll be interesting to see. I'm just scared to death. We're a month away from NBC taking over, and I just can't stand NBC's coverage.
I cringe at the thought of NBC's commentators.
Yeah.
They've got it so screwed up.
Interesting that Joe Gibbs Racing has still got Kyle Busch and Martin Truex unsigned, with both of their contracts coming due at the end of the year. Now, the thing, again, as I watched the race at Dover, that kind of threw me was there was talk of Truex possibly retiring.
I don't know who started that rumor.
But, Kyle Busch is more about sponsorship. Of course, M&M Mars is leaving his car after this year. So basically that's more about getting a sponsor, and I'm sure he will find one.
Yeah.
But the Truex retirement
Bass
rumors.
Pro Shop has already come out and said they will sponsor Truex for as long as he wants to run.
Wherever he goes,
yes.
Because the other rumor is if Truex does not retire, that open seat at Stewart-Haas, Eric Almirola, of course, is retiring.
Yeah.
Could Truex jump over to Stewart-Haas?
Yeah. Bass Pro will follow Martin wherever he goes.
Yep. And then finally, I found this to be a very, very cool story. Dave, of course, being more of a NASCAR historian than I am, will probably be more intrigued with this than maybe I was or any of you guys. But the legendary con man of NASCAR, L.W. Wright, finally made an appearance after 40 years. Now, this guy supposedly weaseled his way into the 1982 Winston 500 at Talladega, ran a few laps, about a dozen, I think.
Yeah, 12 or 13 laps, and got black flagged for running too slow. And this is
disappeared, left a ton of debts. Didn't pay for his tires. Didn't pay Sterling Marlin.
Didn't pay Sterling Marlin
for the car. This is like the D.B. Sweeney of NASCAR. These are the kind of stories that make NASCAR fun for Dave and I, which you guys need to get into. It's not just left turn, left turn, left turn. There are a lot of great stories.
There's a lot of characters in there. There's a lot of history. God, for some of the more fun tales, you got to go back to the 60s. One of my favorites is legendary owner Smokey Yunick, whose car won on gas mileage that never should have happened. And NASCAR tore his car apart in post-race inspection, trying to find if he had an extra gas tank. They had the gas tank taken out. It was sitting down, looking throughout the car. Smokey got fed up, climbed in the car, and drove off. It's speculated they had gas in the roll bars.
For some reason, I think I remember hearing that. Yeah.
So, wild cast of characters back in the early days.
So, with the current cast of characters, we present our picks for the Goodyear 400 from the Lady in Black Darlington, coming up this Sunday, the 8th of May. We've got 6 of our 8 panelists with their picks in. Of course, we haven't hit the deadline yet, still an hour away, so it's okay. It's understandable.
We're good there.
Some interesting picks. I think this is a week, from what I can tell, that everybody is kind of saying, okay, I need to pull back from the big names. Because Darlington, like you pointed out earlier, unpredictable, abrasive surface. Let's just go with a decent driver, and let's save the Hendricks guys. Let's save the Gibbs guys for later on.
The thing with the Gibbs guys, I still don't trust the Toyotas at this point.
Absolutely, I agree.
And otherwise, if they were running well at this point, I would have taken Hamlin.
Right. Yeah, he was probably
the no-brainer.
He and Truex I had popped into my brain, but again, I figured let's wait. Let's just wait. Like you said, the Toyotas are not running as well as they should be. From bad luck with the tire this past week with Hamlin, it just seems like they're snake bit. Plus, the cars aren't as good as, especially the Chevys.
Yeah.
The Fords are doing fine, but the Chevys are just magnificent right now.
They're doing very well. And I'm kind of looking at who's really running good week in, week out. And I'm going with Ross Chastain as my pick for this week at Darlington.
So is the governor. So we got 2 Ross Chastains. I think that's a great pick. I really like that pick. I just don't have the balls to take him yet.
He's got 2 wins.
I know. And he's looked, like you said, fantastic. Sam and Bill and Aaron are all going with Happy Harvick.
Starting to show a little bit of resurgence.
I think it's a safe pick. He can get you decent points, but the problem is he's not getting a lot of stage points and he's not really threatening to win races. But again, like I said, it seems like our panel is being a little conservative this week, blowing our wad, so to speak, over the first 11 races with a lot of these big names. I know I've already burned all my Blaney's. I only got 1 Larson left, so I need to take it easy here for a couple of weeks. Yeah. So I am going with Eric Jones. Eric Jones has impressed me over the last couple of weeks, and Darlington is by far his best track. I'm not looking for a win. Pick. I'm just looking for maybe 30, 35 points. I'll take it. I'll run with it. Even though I don't have a win yet in our competition, I got enough points. I'd like to build that cushion up a little bit more. So everybody's starting to finally, except for Sam. Poor Sam. God, Sam is the snake that won this year.
Break.
Everybody else is within a couple points or a decent race of getting into our playoff cutoff already. And we're not even halfway through to race 26 yet. All right, some other miscellaneous topics before we get to our dumbasses of the week. I forgot to bring up in the NFL segment the Germany game, the first Germany game.
Yes.
Seahawks versus Buccaneers. Thank God. Number one, the Buccaneers get a patsy. Because if Drew Lock is quarterbacking the Seahawks, good luck with that.
Yeah, or Geno Smith for that matter.
Yeah, I still think they're going to pull the trigger and get Baker Mayfield in there somehow, which will at least make the game more interesting. But here's the other thing. I am not a geography guy, okay? Just keep that in mind, people. So I'm going to put out a really stupid question, and you can laugh at me. You can ridicule me on Facebook, wherever you want to reach us. Seattle to Germany. Is it better to fly all the way across the U.S., across the Atlantic, or is it better to fly across the Pacific? I still think you got to go east, right, instead of west.
Yeah.
But Seattle, that is a long-ass trip for that team.
Seattle, Washington to what city in Germany?
Oh, God, don't do that to me. I am not prepared with that. It's not Munich. Germany's not that big anyway.
We'll do Berlin.
I know it's not Berlin either.
No, but at least.
But we always talk about the advantage that these teams get with the travel, going from the West Coast to East Coast and vice versa, and how the teams that are staying at home have the advantage over those other teams trying to adjust to the time change. What is this going to do to Seattle? Now, I have not, of course, seen the schedule. None of us have because it hasn't been announced yet. But I've got to imagine maybe the week before, either they have a bye week or Seattle plays on the East Coast so that at least they can cut the jump a little bit. You know what I mean? Maybe they play in New York.
They do fly east.
Okay.
I found the Seattle to Frankfurt.
Frankfurt. I bet you that's where they're playing. Yeah. That sounds right.
The time difference between Seattle and Frankfurt is 8 hours. And the distance is 5,083 miles. There's your quick There's your quick reference research there.
Wow. And of course, Tampa Bay has got to be a little closer.
Yeah.
But, I mean, what, 4,000, 3,800?
Yeah, the flight time is 10 hours and 10 minutes.
Jeez, Louise. This is what you get, Roger, with all these different, international games. You got your London games. Now you got Germany. Of course, you got Mexico games.
Yep, your London games, the Vikings and the Saints, the Giants and Packers, and the Broncos and Jaguars. And then you got the Niners and Cardinals in your Mexico City game.
Good on you. Good scoop, because I had heard this morning, I think it was, either this morning or the day before, they had not announced who the Cardinals were playing yet.
Yep, I got that this afternoon.
Very good. Very nice. All right. It would not be a Sports Frenzy episode if we didn't have what we affectionately call Frenzy 5-0.
Yeah,
the
we
crime
got a couple
blotter
of them for you there, kids.
If you have not heard about this, I have not seen a follow-up. Kansas Wesleyan college baseball team accusing their opponent, Bethany, of poisoning their water cooler with paint thinner. And if you have seen the pictures that they took of the water cooler, it's disgusting.
It's bad.
It's disgusting.
It's god-awful, abysmal.
It almost looks like paint, not paint thinner. It looks like there's paint floating in it.
Oh, God, it's disgusting.
Boy, if that's the case and somebody actually did that, that's pretty heinous.
That's a criminal case right there.
Yeah.
You throw paint thinner in that. I'm sorry. It's attempted murder because you're trying to poison someone.
It's pretty damn close. Now, of course, on the free speech front, former ESPN SportsCenter anchor Sage Steele is suing the mothership for free speech violations because she felt like she was badgered, harassed, and eventually pushed off the network because of comments she made about politics and social issues on podcasts and other interviews.
Yeah, that had nothing to do with the Eastern Seaboard Program Network.
So good for her. I hope she wins or gets a nice fat check.
No kidding. They need to be taken to task on this one.
Yeah, they need to be taken down about 5 or 10 fucking notches because they are a little bit too big for their britches. Now, of course, in NCAA basketball and football, all the NCAA sports we've talked about, these NILs and the transfer portal and all the chaos this is causing. Of course, personally for me, it hurts that despite the fact that Miami, the Hurricanes, are one of these teams that actually is trying to embrace the NILs, as much as I hate that, and they're trying to get out front and get these players some money. Again, I'm not condoning it, but now they're getting blackmailed. The basketball team, one of their better players, Isaiah Wong, has basically told the Hurricanes, either you guys arrange for me to get a better NIL deal. They can't directly get involved.
Right.
They have to find an alumni, a business run by an alumni.
Yeah.
To give.
Oh my God, this is pathetic.
He says he will transfer if he doesn't get a better NIL deal.
You know what? See ya, kid. We don't want you. And that should be a warning to anybody else. Do not touch somebody with that kind of freaking attitude.
And we're starting to hear some of the bigger schools, again, the rumblings are just get out of our way, NCAA. Let us create our own super conference.
Oh, God, no. No.
Fracture the college sports beyond repair. Basically, we've talked about it in football. The Power Five basically go off on their own, create their own league.
Oh my God. No good can come from that.
No. Hopefully we won't have a lot to report on that in the coming weeks, but unfortunately I think
it's going to gain traction
especially
because these egos involved.
especially as we get closer to football season.
Yeah, it's going to ramp up, unfortunately.
All right, no moments of silence this week. Do have a couple dumbasses. We're not playing dumbass or not this week.
No.
Believe it or not, for the most part, people seem like they've been fairly sane.
For the most part.
But one of our former Bears favorites is not included in that. So,
former center Olin Kreutz, he's one of the original Bears tough guys. He doesn't take crap from anybody, teammate, opponent. You cross him, you're going to pay the penalty. As his CHGO colleague Adam Hogue found out firsthand, made a flippant remark this past week. Olin did not take kindly to the comment, grabbed him by the throat, and said, "Enough is enough," basically. Cost Olin his job for assaulting a coworker. He's lucky because Hogue is not pressing charges, so he kind of dodged the bullet there, but Olin's temper has gotten the better of him here.
Yeah, unfortunately, we've heard this in the past, too. He's not the most mellow guy.
No, he's a little intense. But, and then he didn't do himself any favors by posting on Twitter a meme with Mike Tyson. Social media made y'all way too comfortable with disrespecting people and not getting punched in the face for it. While many of us may agree with that sentiment, dumbass for putting it out there.
Show a little bit of remorse, show a little bit of contrition, maybe keep your job.
Yeah, that's sad. We'll see if it costs him anything else that he does.
Speaking of cost, speaking of money, Boris Becker, former tennis great, sentenced to 2.5 years in prison for hiding assets after he filed bankruptcy.
Wow. Yeah. Not good. Not good at all.
That was back in the last golden era of tennis, right? Where wasn't he playing around with, well, that sounds bad. Might as well say grooming.
Yeah.
No, with Agassi and Sampras and those guys.
Yeah.
Maybe he was a little bit before them, but
yeah, you would think. But what was it? In 2017, he filed for bankruptcy for an unpaid loan on his estate. But also, back in 2002, he was convicted in Germany for tax evasion. So, dude, not good. You would have thought he would have learned his lesson the first time. A true dumbass right there. That could almost be in the running for dumbass of the year this early on.
Oh, I think we've got some that are far worse than that.
Probably.
Speaking of which, my final dumbass, Major League Baseball.
Oh, yeah. Are we going back to Mr. Manfred?
No, we are going to last week when we ranted and raved about Kyle Schwarber versus Angel Hernandez. Baseball actually grades the performances of the umpires. And the abysmal, terrible, awful, typically ridiculous performance from Angel Hernandez in that Milwaukee-Philadelphia game got a 96% grade.
Was it official?
Yeah.
That is pathetic. Absolutely a travesty to give him that kind of rating. I still can't understand how he still has a freaking job as an umpire.
All right. I've been trying to be mellow. I'm a little bit dinged up, ready to go on the injured list, but I've still got a little fire in me. I'll give you my controversial take to wrap up this week's Sports Frenzy 2.0. He is getting a pass because he is a minority hire. He's a minority umpire. He will get away with more.
I don't care. I don't care
Consider
who
how much
you are.
Joe West got away with, and he was a stupid fat white guy.
Neither of these two should have been around at all. It's the old boys network. And I wonder if this goes back a couple years to that whole blow up Hernandez had with Torrey and the whole phone tapping thing. Because didn't Hernandez illegally record conversations?
Could be.
And he should have been let go at that point.
But again, selective justice. We've talked about this in the past. We talked about it's illegal to do that in California, yet the woman who recorded the Clippers' former owner illegally still got his ass pushed out of the NBA, and they were forced to sell the team.
Yeah, it's all selective. It's all bullshit. There is no equal treatment for anybody.
And again, that goes back to what we were talking about earlier. The justice system in these sports leagues runs on a different level. They think they can do what they want and not pay attention to the actual letter of the law in the counties, the cities, the states, and the entire fucking country. So
there you go.
I think we're out of Star Wars jokes. Maybe we'll have some more for the weekend edition. No, we're not going to review any Star Wars movies.
No, we won't.
But he is a conquistador, Dave Height.
He's the maestro, Kevin Crane. We got to go to Hoth and get our next adult beverages iced down.
Hey, as long as Greedo shoots first, we're okay. Take care, kids. We'll talk to you next week. May the 4th be with you.